Welcome to my channel, Treasure Within You. I'm your host, Ridhima Singh.
The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Sometimes letting things go is an act of far greater power than defending or hanging on. Eckhart Tolle. About the author. Eckhart Tolle is a spiritual teacher and author who was born in Germany and educated at the universities of London and Cambridge at the age of 29. A profound inner transformation radically changed the course of his life. Everyone has an internal narrator in his or her head. This narrator should not be tied with one's personal identity or senses of self. Mindfulness can be a great tool to help you notice what's happening in the present moment. Meditation, which is a more formal type of mindfulness, is a highly beneficial practice. Chapter 1. You are not your mind. The greatest obstacle to enlightenment. Enlightenment is a state of wholeness, of being at one and therefore at peace. It is finding your true nature beyond name and form. It is something almost paradoxically is essential you, and yet it is much higher than you. Being can be felt, but it can never be understood mentally. You can know it only when the mind is still and your attention is fully and intensely in the now. Identification with our mind creates a smoky screen of concepts, labels, images, words, judgments, and definitions that blocks all true relationship. Realize that all the things that truly matter, beauty, love, creativity, joy, and inner peace, arise from beyond the mind. The moment you start watching the thinker, a higher level of consciousness becomes activated. Chapter 2. Freeing yourself from your mind. Listen to the voice in your head. Be there as the witnessing presence. This is because the voice belongs to your conditioned mind, which is the result of all your past history as well as the collective cultural mind set you inherited. Do not judge or condemn what you hear, for doing so would mean that the same voice has come in again through the back door. You will soon realize there is a voice, and here I am listening to it, watching it. In your everyday life, you can practice this by taking any routine activity and normally is only a means to an end, and giving it your fullest attention so that it becomes an end in itself. Chapter 3. Enlightenment. Rising above thought. Eckhart Tolle describes the mind as an instrument. He says it is a tool that is there to be used for specific tasks. When the task is completed, you lay it down. According to Eckhart Tolle, about 80 to 90% of most people thinking is not only repetitive and useless but dysfunctional and often negative, and much of it also harmful. When you observe your mind, Eckhart says, you will find this to be true. The present moment holds the key to liberation, but you cannot find the present moment as long as you are your mind. Eckhart reminds us that enlightenment means rising above thought, not falling back to a level below thought, the level of an animal or a plant. Chapter 4. Emotion. The body's reaction to your mind. Eckhart acknowledges how emotion arises at the place where mind and body meet. He describes it as the body's reaction to the mind, or you might say a reflection of the mind in the body. The research has shown that strong emotions even cause changes in the biochemistry of the body. These biochemical changes represent the physical or material aspect of the emotion. If you have difficulty feeling your emotions, start by focusing attention on the inner energy field of your body. Feel the body from within. This will also put you in touch with your emotions. Eckhart Tolle. Something that Eckhart Tolle highly recommends it is to make it a habit to ask yourself what's going on inside me at this moment. That question will point you in the right direction, but don't analyze. Eckhart said, just watch, focus your attention on it, feel the energy of the emotion. If there is no emotion present, take your notice more deeply into the inner energy field of your body. It is the doorway into being. Chapter 5, Emotion, Love, Joy, and Peace are deep states of being, or rather, the three aspects of the state of inner connectedness with being. As such, they have no opposite. This is because they arise from beyond the mind. Pleasure is always derived from something outside you, whereas joy arises from within. Emotions, on the other hand, being part of the dualistic mind, are subject to the law of opposites. This simply means that you cannot have good without bad. The greater part of human pain is unnecessary. It's a self-created. As long as the unobserved mind runs your life, the intensity of the pain depends on the degree of resistance to the present moment. And this in turn depends on how strongly you are identified with your mind. Yes, we need the mind as well as time to function in the world, but there comes a point where they take over our lives, and this is where dysfunction, pain, and sorrow set in. All individuals are suffering under this burden, but they also keep adding to it every moment. Whenever they ignore or deny that precious moment or reduce it to a means of getting to some future moment which only exists in the mind, never in actuality, accept then act whatever the present moment contains, accept it as if you have chosen it. Also work with it rather against it. Make it your friend and ally, not your enemy. Realize deeply that the present moment is all you ever have. Chapter 6, Past Pain, Dissolving the Pain Body. As long as you are unable to access the power of the now, every emotional pain that you experience leaves behind a residue of pain that lives on in you. This, of course, includes the pain you suffered as a child caused by the unconsciousness of the world into which you were born. Watch out for any sign of unhappiness in yourself in whatever form. It may be the awakening pain body. If you don't face it and bring the light of your consciousness into the pain, you will be forced to relive it again and again. Everything is shown up by being exposed to the light, and whatever is exposed to the light itself becomes light. The moment you observe it, feels it, energy filled within you, and take your attention into it, a higher dimension of consciousness has comes in. It's called presence. There are two levels to your pain: the pain that you create now, and the pain from the past that still lives on in your mind and body. Be present enough to be able to watch the pain body directly and feel its energy. It then cannot control your thinking. Chapter 7, Ego, Identification with the Pain Body. Once you have understood the basic principle of being present as the watcher of what happens inside you, and you understand it by experiencing it, you have at your disposal the most potent transformational tool. This is not to deny that you may encounter intense inner resistance to disidentifying from your pain. What this means is that you have made an unhappy self out of your pain body and believe that this mind made fiction is who you are. In that case, the unconscious fear of losing your identity will create strong resistance to any disidentification. In other words, you would rather be in pain, be the pain body, that take a leap into the unknown and risk losing the familiar, unhappy self. If this applies to you, observe the resistance within yourself. But if you are fortunate enough to find someone who is intensely conscious, if you can be with them and join them in the state of presence, that can be helpful and will accelerate things. Origin of fear. The psychological condition of fear is divorced from any concrete and actual immediate danger. It comes in many forms: unease, worry, anxiety, nervousness, tension, dread, phobia, and so on. This kind of psychological fear is always of something that might happen, not of something that is happening now. You are in the here and now, while your mind is in the future. As a result, this will create an anxiety gap. Watch out for any kind of defensiveness within yourself. What are you defending? A false identity, an image in your mind, a fictitious entity. By making this pattern conscious, by witnessing it, you disidentify from it. In the light of your consciousness, the unconscious habit will then quickly dissolve. Chapter 9. The Ego's Search for Wholeness. As long as the egoic mind runs your life, you cannot truly be at ease, at peace, or truly fulfilled. Since the ego is derived sense of self, it needs to identify with external things. If conscious, it manifests as the unsettling and constant feeling of not being worthy or good enough. If it is unconscious, it will only be felt indirectly as an intense craving, wanting, and needing. In either case, people will often enter into a compulsive pursuit of ego gratification and things to identify with, to fill this hole they feel within. The most common ego identification have to do with possessions, the work you do, social status and recognition, knowledge and education, physical appearances, special abilities, relationship, personal and family history, belief systems, and often also political, nationalistic, racial, religious, and other collective identifications. None of these is you. Perhaps you find it as yet hard to believe. And I am certainly not asking you to believe that your identity cannot be found in any of those things. You will know the truth of it by yourself. You will know it at the latest when you feel death approaching. Death is a stripping away of all that is not you. The secret of life is to die before you die and find that there is no death. Chapter 10. Moving deeply into the now. Don't seek yourself in the mind. Studying the complexities of the mind may make you a good psychologist, but doing so won't take you beyond the mind. Just as the study madness isn't enough to create sanity. You have already understood the basic mechanics of the unconscious state, identification with the mind which creates a false self, the ego, as a substitute for your true self. Rooted in the being, you became a branch cut off from the vine, as Jesus put it. The problems of the mind cannot be solved on the level of the mind. Eckhart Tolle. The ego needs are endless. It feels vulnerable and threatened and so lives in a state of fear and want. Once this has happened, the last thing they want is to become free of them. That would mean a loss of self. There can be a great deal of unconscious ego investment in the pain and suffering. So once you recognize the root of unconsciousness and identification with the mind, which of course includes the emotions, you step out of it, you become present. The mind in itself is not dysfunctional, it is a wonderful tool. Dysfunction sets in when you seek yourself in it and mistake it for who you are. If then becomes the egoic mind and take over your whole life. Chapter 11. End the delusion of time. To be identified with your mind is to be trapped in time. This creates an endless preoccupation with the past and future, and an unwillingness to honor and acknowledge the present moment and allow it to be. The compulsion arises because the past gives you an identity and the future holds the promise of salvation or fulfillment in whatever form, which of course both are illusions. The eternal present is the space which your whole life unfolds, the one factor that remains constant. The more you are focused on time, past and future, the more you miss the now, the most precious thing there is. There was never a time when your life was not now, nor will there ever be. Secondly, now is the only point that can take you beyond the limited confines of the mind. It is your single point of access to the timeless and formless realm of being. Chapter 12, the key of the spiritual dimension. Through self observation, more presence comes into your life. Automatically watch the thought, feel the emotion, observe the reaction. Don't judge or analyze what you observe. The moment you realize you are not present, you are present. Time is what keeps the light from reaching us, thus, no greater obstacles to God than time. The present moment holds the key to liberation, but you cannot find the present moment as long as you are your mind. Chapter 13, Finding the Life. Underneath your life situation. Ignore your life situation for a while and pay attention to your life. You cannot be both unhappy and fully present in the now. What you refer to as your life should be more accurately be called your life situation. What is the difference? Your life situation exists in time. Your life is now. Your life situation is mind stuff. Your life is real. It is not about solving your problems, it's about realizing that there are no problems. Focus your attention on the now and tell me what problem you have at this moment. As there are no problems in the now, there is no fear either.